Hey, what's up, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of SimplyPodLogical, a simply logical podcast.
Hello, fellow old
Kids?
people. Fellow everyone.
Hello, fellow kids.
Hello, fellow cats.
Christine, I was listening to a podcast the other day where these dudes were just kind of talking about the ways they were feeling old in their 30s that they didn't feel in their 20s. Mm-hmm. They were mostly talking about, like, when I drink, I feel hungover for days and stuff like that. But it kind of got me thinking that it's a more interesting topic than that. The ways in which being in your 30s, like I'm 34, you're 33.
Correct.
Yes. I'm glad I know that. And yeah, there are ways in which you are feeling older in your 30s that I didn't feel at all in my 20s, I think. And I think it's an interesting topic. We know a lot of the people listening to this podcast are in this age range. A lot of people in their 20s, I would say.
Yeah, well, I think the majority is 18 to 24, but then the next majority is the 24 to 35 or 25 to 35 or something like that. So yeah, it doesn't tell me the median age or the average age, which I would love, Susan, if I could get that stat for the median age. But anyways, yeah, we are aware that a lot of our audience floats around that age group or just under it. And I thought it would be fun.
Yeah, so we asked the audience to help sort of collect some people's perspectives. Anyone like over 30, we asked people, like, what are the ways you feel old in your 30s? And what do you kind of wish you knew in your 20s about how you would feel in your 30s? Mm-hmm. I will say just right off the bat that, like, you are not, like, actually objectively old in your 30s. And we're not trying to sort of perpetuate some, sort of cultural standard that as soon as people hit 30, like, their life is behind them. Statistically speaking, you probably have more life in front of you than behind you.
Correct.
But you are getting to an age where you start kind of thinking about those things and where you are in life, and you start just feeling physically older in a way, and you're more likely to have responsibilities you associate with being much older. So I still think it's like a really interesting time in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, I think it's a meme for, like, people in their 30s to say, I'm so old now. But I don't think most of us, when we say that, we, like, mean literally we are 80, even though sometimes I say I'm 84 years old. Like, it's kind of a meme. But at the same time, whether you're 22 or you're 54, it's valid to feel like you're aging. Whatever age you are, it's valid to feel like things are different now than they were for you a decade ago.
But I think that it's just... I just want to make it clear that, like, it's okay to grow old. Like, because I think in our culture, in a lot of ways, especially for women more than men, there's a reason why you don't see a lot of older women starring in feature films in Hollywood, right? And it feels like in a lot of ways we do have, like, a sort of a Western culture that doesn't
appreciate women
women above the age of, I don't know, like 30, like, or 40. I don't know. So yeah, I just don't want to, like, participate in that. This is more of just a lighthearted conversation.
Not any, but a lot of women celebrities, actresses who are 50, they don't look 50.
That's true. Yeah. Even if they're still, good point. And that's with a lot of, that's true of both genders too, right? Like,
more so for women, I would argue.
Sure, of course. But I think, like, if you look at people in Hollywood and how they look at, like, 50, they do not look like normal people. And I just want to...
Well, that's because they're all attractive celebrities, so there's already that.
There's that, but, like, I think people know that a lot of women undergo procedures to look younger. I think it's sort of less known how common that is for male celebrities. And I'm not trying to shame anyone,
but there's also, like,
but,
an
like,
appreciation for, like, the silver fox guy. Like, People's Magazine has always been big in the culture that I remember. Like, George Clooney is always attractive, even though he's, like, gray haired and has wrinkles, but it's fine because we propped him up, and others like him as, like, Hollywood men who are gray and wrinkly, but they're still really sexy. Whereas women actresses usually don't see the same
can't get away with that.
Can't get the same benefit.
I'm just saying a lot of aging male celebrities get gender affirming surgery or take hormones or testosterone replacement to hold on to youth
not as talked about.
In a way that is sort of gross too, I think.
Okay, I don't know how we got here.
Anyway, let's see what the audience thinks about growing old.
All right,
first one, Nails by Briani. I make old people noises whenever I stand up or sit down.
Yo, same.
You make some old people noises.
When I wake up every morning, it's like
So for
down
you,
on my back.
Christine's not like verbalizing your age
Oh.
noises, though. You're just like, your body's literally popping and
No,
cracking.
like it's involuntarily cracking in my back. It's
Yeah.
not I'm not vocalizing like, oh my God, I need my oats.
My hip.
Although that's like
My
also true.
oats.
Where's my tea, Ben?
I think most
No.
people thinking of this, it's like this idea of like groaning just to like lift yourself out of bed.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
I guess for me, it's like my knee actually popping when I move my joint and so on. But I do think a lot of people who are growing older feel that, right? Like you hear your joints more often. You hear a back crack more often. No, you don't find
Oh,
that?
no, that's totally true. I don't have that as much. Like maybe like
Well, must be not. You must be youthful, Ben.
sometimes my ankle kind of pops. You know what's weird for me if we're talking about like getting out of bed in the morning? Sometimes I'll notice I'm sore. Like just from sleep, I guess. Like I'll wake up and like, oh, my foot hurts a little bit. I must have slept on it funny.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something I've only experienced in the last year or two that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
The funnier take on this question is just like having less of a filter and just like saying what's on your mind, like even if you're alone. Do you kind of
What do you say when you're alone, Ben?
Or just the idea like I'll finish a meal and be like, that was good soup.
You say that to yourself?
Maybe. Yeah, you know? Do you just talk to yourself more?
I mean,
think?
is that the average experience, or is that just our experience of, first of all, being more isolated, and second of all, being internet people? So we're used to just like talking into a mic.
There's some
Yeah.
confounding factors here. But I do find I'll do these like little, I think that is like an old man sort of thing to do, sort of announce like,
Announce what you're doing. Yeah, why is that? Is that because like people often have to say things out loud to start reminding themselves of things as they get older because they can't just like retain it without vocalizing it? It might be like a strategy.
I think it might be a filter thing. You just like stop always caring as much about whether something just stays
Someone
in your
hears
head
you.
or also comes out of your mouth.
So Menchie knows everything you're thinking. Shut your ears.
Okay. Next one. From Ms. Co. I remember when MTV played music videos, seeing Nickelodeon shows, Salute Your Shorts, Doug, Dude Ranch, all that from my youth now referenced as classic Nickelodeon, remembering what life was like before the internet.
Do, do,
Okay.
do, do. Life before the internet. Dial up.
That was the internet.
That was the beginning of the internet.
Yes.
Was
Thank you
dial-up
for
internet.
your sound effects. Christine's just making noises.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
That's ICQ.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. Are you a soundboard or
Sorry,
you want to give us
go
an
on.
answer?
I'm vocalizing everything. What's the
What
problem?
shows do you remember watching as a youth?
Cribs.
MTV
Cribs, yeah, which is where they just a camera would follow a celebrity into their house, and the camera was constantly like moving to the right and left, back and forth. Remember that? Like it would just be like
Well,
sideways
they'd
shot.
show up to their door and they'd
Yeah.
answer and be like, "Hey, MTV, welcome to my mansion.
Yeah,
Let me
it's-
show you my fridge."
It's like Vogue 73 questions, but with lots of music, and the camera keeps falling back and forth.
Yeah, but like I think that's a really good point. They have young people have the exact same thing now with their celebrities. It's just
Just different.
different.
Yeah, the tone and the pacing is different, but it's the same kind of content. And I feel like every time there's a new iteration of the same thing, it's just reimagining what kind of cinematic effect you can add to it. So like when Cribs was around, I remember that pan of the camera, that like hard angle, like we're going sideways back and forth, was like so on trend. And like, look at this really good cinematography we're doing.
You are such a strange person. This
Why
is
is
what
that
you remember about
strange?
Cribs? Like,
Yeah.
that they move the camera from side to side.
I don't know. I'm always like, why are you laughing at me? And then Vogue 73 questions is so polished and clean and slow. And then the narration of, so how do you feel about your life from behind the camera? Like it's not at all like how Cribs was edited.
What are 3 things you can't live without?
Yeah.
Kylie Jenner.
Yeah, like that. And she talks really slow to answer it.
So it's funny, your answer was an MTV show that wasn't music videos.
Mm.
So you even in your teenage years, you thought of MTV as like a reality TV show more than a music video station?
Right. You're right. This will change drastically even if you're like 6
Just
years
a
older
few
than us.
years
Yeah.
off, yeah. Because
What about you?
we're 88 babies. I can vaguely remember when MTV mostly played music videos, but you're right. I mostly associated it with trash reality television shows like Jersey Shore. more than music.
I remember music videos though. They always had those countdowns. Or was that Much Music countdown? I think it was a Much Music
Well, in
countdown.
Canada, we had Much Music, Channel 29
Yeah.
on Rogers or something.
I remember them having like the latest, like boy bands would come to the stage and like live perform or just do interviews.
It's kind of like TRL for
Yeah,
MTV.
exactly. But if I feel like it was so long ago that I barely remember even the names or the hosts. It's just like if you showed me a clip of it, I'd be like, I saw that all the time. But I'm more visual as opposed to remembering the name.
I think the sort of female pop star / boy band movement of the early 2000s was sort of the sort of like death knell of MTV and Much Music playing music videos more than other TV shows
And then there was the internet, so there was no need to play music videos
or
on
TV
the
at all.
television. Or there was no need for television.
And I guess the second part of this, which is a whole other giant topic, what life was like before the internet. We've said this before, but I feel like we have that interesting perspective of remembering before and after. Like we like really experienced that switch. So yeah, I don't know what there is to
Like,
really say about that.
I remember a time when it wasn't that easy to get the information you needed to complete your school project from the internet. Like I actually had to use textbooks.
Yes,
And
or
now,
go to a library.
Or go to a library.
Yeah.
And now, like, there's so much. I mean, unless you have to follow something specific from a textbook. But let's assume it's not. It's just like a random topic. You could find everything you need on Google. You do not need all the textbooks.
The difference I think of more than anything is probably what it meant for like the social life of a young person. So like we may have had MSN or ICQ and like people would talk that way after school. But I get the impression now people have their entire social lives in some cases online.
Yeah.
And that's just the way they interact with their peers.
And on multiple
Whereas
platforms.
I can still be like sort of sound old by saying like I used to hang out with my friends for hours after school, like playing sports or whatever. And we weren't worried about like who was liking each other's post on Instagram, you know?
I remember.
And I appreciate that I had that sort of pre-Instagram high school experience, I think.
I mean, I do remember the beginning of that. It wasn't quite the same because there was no Instagram yet. But people started to use even MSN Messenger, which is just like an instant messenger. They started to use that in ways that remind me of the culture that we're experiencing with Instagram and likes and how popular and trying to get someone's attention. So like on Instagram, you have like close friends stories, and maybe there's some drama over who's in your close friends stories, for example. And on MSN, you could have groups. And I remember there being drama over like whether or not you were in this group chat. And group chats is still a thing that's, on WhatsApp. Some people have group chats now. And I remember there was a strategy where you used to make yourself appear offline and then go back online when you're trying to get someone's attention because other people online would
notified?
see you log in. So it's a notification, just like someone was notified you liked their post or you followed them or in the feed that they left a comment. Notifications were a thing back then, but it was a way to get someone's attention, which is very much similar what it is now. Just there's multiple different ways to do it. So I think that was kind of the beginning. And I remember the pressure and the pits in my stomach that I felt during that period of, is this person going to write me back? I see they're typing, they're not answering. And that was a completely new experience because we didn't have text message phones that had 3 dots at the bottom at the time. I remember MSN was like the first. I mean, maybe AOL did it. I didn't really use AOL Messenger.
I remember it used to cost me 25 cents to send a text message.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Early cell phone plans, at least my memory of it was like you would pay per text you sent someone.
So it'd have to be like really important to write a text. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so
Anyways.
you're right. Technology changes, but the way
people
the social
interact.
dynamics of being in high school probably haven't as much as we say. Okay. From Ashley, I turned 30 this year. Seeing the teens these days, that statement alone makes me feel old. Seeing them wear early 2000s styles as vintage blows my mind. How am I old enough for the butterfly clips and baggy jeans I wore as a 10-year-old to rotate back into style? Seriously, how?
And that's why it's always important to keep everything you own, because you never know when something's going to come back into trend.
It's terrible advice. Keep everything
It's
ever.
so true, though. And I know exactly what you mean, Ashley, because I watch TikToks. I see what, younger celebrities are wearing. I don't know how much butterfly clips are like genuinely back in style, but I've noticed like brands or like marketing efforts like dress up, whoever's the face of their brand in butterfly clips. I don't know if like average young people are wearing butterfly clips though, or if it's just the brands trying to emulate this idea of nostalgia and appeal to a customer base that's around my age.
Yeah, it's
Like that, I'm
totally
not sure.
it's totally pulling on the heartstrings of people who are
nostalgia.
now in able to make their own purchasing decisions. Yeah, but I feel like this is maybe accelerated in a way. Like I feel like this has always been a thing. They just like pick what was cool in a certain decade previously to try to like sort of bring back, and that's what's vintage. But I don't know, it feels like it's getting quicker. Like it felt like 80s kind of like in music. I remember there was clearly a moment where like a lot of 80s sounds were sort of coming back into music, but like that really quickly shifted to 90s, and then like even more quickly shifted to like 2000s being what was nostalgic. It feels like we're having this like acceleration
We're
of what is
cycling
considered.
quicker. Is that just because our collective attention spans are just getting shorter?
Maybe that could be it.
But that's interesting, though. I'm sure a sociologist has like done a study documenting the trends and temporal analyses. But like, yes, everything that used to be in style often does come back in style.
You'd think it would be
But is it
steady though, because
quicker?
it's just like, is it people in their late 20s, early 30s with more disposable income, probably, that you just sort of want to tap into their childhood a little bit? You'd think it would be mostly kind of steady.
I did see low-rise jeans trying to make a comeback. I can't say that
Not
I
for
would
you?
vote yes. Yeah,
No?
no.
Vote no on that?
With like the G-strings coming out of it. Do you remember
Oh,
that?
God.
That was very much in style. You were really cool if people could
If
see
you could
your
see your
G-string.
underwear
Yeah.
coming out of your jeans. Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that you could see it. It was just that the jeans were constructed so low so that it was impossible to bend down and not have that happen, even if you weren't trying to have that happen.
That's lovely. From Hannah, I'm 30 and my body feels like it's slowly falling apart and requiring a lot more general maintenance just to simply function. I have to pay attention to things like how I bend down and wearing the right shoes to walk my dog. I actively made a decision the other day to go prune the shrubs in my garden rather than play a video game. I enjoy hanging laundry. It is my favorite chore. I get excited over stuff like a new vacuum cleaner or washing machine. That's good. Nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that.
Yeah. I love the excitement and the energy for a new vacuum cleaner.
Totally.
A fresh new vacuum
Vacuums are
cleaner.
pretty cool.
They are. Like the some of them new ones, like the Dyson ones, are really cool. Like that did not exist when our parents were cleaning the house.
Basically like having a pet android.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Nothing wrong with this comment. Next one.
Yes. I guess we've already covered this.
Okay. Nails by Brioni. I don't understand the teens anymore. What's with people saying the teens?
I think it's just an older person, older
like
relative
kids
to
these
younger
days?
person saying, yeah, like this generation, these people.
So I don't understand their slang, their music, or pretty much all of it. All right. Pretty sweeping statement here.
I try to understand.
Yeah. On TikTok.
I do because I follow it. Like I observe TikTok. I make TikToks mostly for Holo Taco. So I try to, keep up on the trending audios.
Why do you try? Isn't the nice thing about growing old is you stop caring about trying?
I mean, I don't think, well, okay. To some extent, I see what you mean. Like, I don't care to wear Balenciaga because that's impressive or Supreme or whatever. I do not give a shit about that. But that's a specific type of trend. I do care about being able to participate in conversations with people of different generations, especially people younger than I am. So I like to know, like, what's going on in general pop culture. Like, what are the ways in which we express things to each other? What is comedy like to young people? Because I've always been someone who likes entertainment. And although I've kind of had a traditional Simply style way of entertainment, as a person, I like to learn and evolve too. So I watch TikToks and see how that, transition, how I can transition what I would do into something that people can understand today. And
Yeah, they could understand without using their slang, though.
yeah, I hear you. And I feel like one time I used the word bestie. Okay, well
Bestie.
we have a nail polish
Bestie.
shade name Work Bestie. So I have
Okay.
to just acknowledge, yes, I know that. Holo Taco has a nail polish name Work Bestie. But separate from that, a long time before, whether it was on my personal TikTok or Holo Taco, I said something like Holo Besties. I can't even remember. But the caption just had the word besties in it. And one of the top comments was like, not Cristine using the word bestie with like a crying, laughing face or something. And then a bunch of people agreed. And I guess I was like, I'm just trying to understand. Is it because I'm 33, so I'm automatically ruled out from using that word? Or is it because you think I just learned that word and don't know how to use it? Because I do think I use the correct application of the word. Because the word is a new term.
Hello, bestie.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, best friends. Like, it's pretty simple.
But
There's other slang concepts that are more complicated and nuanced, I understand. But that one's not really. And I guess I just kind of feel a little bit confused because everyone in the younger generation will learn the word, the term besties, and then, they'll see their friends use it, and then they'll use it. They just learned it too. So I also just learned it. But it's like I'm not allowed because I'm 33.
Well, no, I don't think it's that you can't use the word, but like it is a signifier.
Of youth.
It is a way of speaking that is sort of limited to a certain. Here's my issue with it. It's
Okay,
kind
tell
of like
me your issue.
well, it's kind of like a hello fellow kids moment you would see from like a corporate account.
If you use
maybe.
it incorrectly, yeah.
But it's not just about using it incorrectly. Would you use that word normally?
I think it's a really
Or
cute
are
word.
you only using it to appeal to a younger audience?
I honestly like that word. And I think it's super cute and easy and accessible by so many
Yeah,
people.
But I just think young people can really smell it.
But do
when
they use the word
older
cool or
people
dude?
or corporate accounts are using terms that young people think is popular when it's like not really organic. So like I don't
okay.
think older people or like corporate accounts should be like, we gotta talk like the kids. I think that is
But
pretty
I don't
cringy.
think I do that all the time.
I'm not saying you
I
do.
know, but this is where I struggle. So I guess the rule is like just you're not allowed to use
Just-
language.
Old people can be cool, Christine. I just think when you really try to be cool.
I didn't think that was really trying. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like I didn't think it was that bad. But I think people are just like really
Nothing
eager,
really matters.
really eager to call out a 33-year-old for using a word that's cool. Cool. See, I just said cool, which was a word from my youth. Cool.
Everyone says cool. It's not like
Yeah,
that.
because well, they're not allowed to. Only my generation can say the word cool, Ben. Because that's where it started.
Are we gatekeeping much now?
That's my point, is that I wish words like that weren't kept.
But this lingo
hard.
is just, I don't know. We had our words too. If when we were young, our parents said, fuck, I don't know. What did we say as kids? What were like the cool words to
Dude.
say?
Dude, I don't know.
That's so generic.
Yeah,
though. I
it's
feel like
too
there
generic.
would have been more specific words we used to refer to things. And if the parent walked into the room and tried talking like that, you would roll your eyes and be like, "That's so lame."
I guess, but so that just means I can't participate, which kind of makes me
Here,
sad.
you don't have to. It's great.
But I want to. That's my point.
Well, if you're actually participating in conversations where you would speak like that, there's a way of still being cool. I just think it has to be natural.
I guess I still don't understand why it was construed as completely unnatural. Like, I'd understand if it was a really obscure, nuanced term that I mustn't know the definition of, but I feel like was a highly accessible word. That's why I'm just genuinely confused.
At the end of the day, like none of this really
I know
matters.
it doesn't matter. It was just an example of me and, a 33-year-old who is challenged by trying to fit in, I suppose.
Okay, but let's say we're on Twitter and Wendy's is tweeting out, "Our cheeseburgers are so chuggy."
But they
By
probably
a
do,
bestie.
Ben. I don't
Okay.
think you find like they do.
No. Yeah. And I would roll my eyes and be like, there's
you?
some, executive telling an intern, make our hamburgers sound like the cool kids. I think,
But I think I actually think that like Duolingo is another good example of a corporate
Dua
account.
Lipa?
Yeah, exactly. That's
Exactly.
that's using the humor and types of words that younger people on TikTok use to appeal to that audience, and it works for those people. Like Duolingo is not called cringy, and I think Wendy's does the same thing. Wendy's isn't called cringy.
I think trying to be cool and youthful is one of like the least cool things.
So you just have to do it successfully. And I guess we don't know what that means. I don't know how to do it successfully. It's basically what you're
But
concluding.
just don't try. You just don't need to try.
Okay.
Just talk how you want to talk.
That is how I wanted to
Okay,
talk.
then that's fine.
Like, I just love that
Okay, then
concept.
use the word bestie.
I think it's really positive and cute.
Okay.
It's like Menchie's my bestie. Like, it's just so, I don't know. I think it was that bad. Okay, fine.
Nothing's
Stop
that bad. You can
embarrassing me.
you can do whatever you want. Okay, from Ashley. Something that makes me feel old is not knowing the current popular songs or cultural references. Also, the way I dance looks old now. Haha.
Yes.
Something that I wish I knew in my 20s is that it was okay to take risks and make mistakes. Not every decision was irreversible, but it made it seem like life was about perfection or nothing. Love your podcast. Happy Canada Day. Thank you, Ashley. I can totally relate to this. I feel like I was really sort of paralyzed by like social hangups. In my early 20s, I was really worried about the how other people perceived me and wanting to like only show people like things of myself if I felt very confident about them or good about them. And in some ways I felt like I was sort of like pushing life off. It's like I'll figure this out once I like get better at this, or if I feel better about myself. And it's like it's easy to sort of like push things down the road rather than just like taking chances. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really good indirect advice also for anyone who's trying to share whatever they do with the world. Because what you said about how it's always easier to keep telling yourself, "Oh, I'll show people this when I'm better," or "I just need to keep practicing before I let people know that I'm really good at Donkey Kong," or whatever it is.
Yes.
And I feel like I've seen that kind of question come up a lot when people ask, like, "I'm too scared to start a nail art account because I don't think I'm good yet, so I'm just going to practice for the next 2 years and take a bunch of pictures and videos but not upload any of them." And I think it's that exact mentality that's a really good point that is good for anyone at any age to know, but especially people who are at the younger age usually, where you're worried about putting what you think is your best forward because you know you still have so much room for improvement. So you're worried that like, "Oh no, well, why would I show them now if it's not good enough? Like, let me just work on it for another month." But observing the progress is also part of the payoff. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage you to just put whatever it is out there, and then, you know, you can always make more or do more.
And that can be a very scary thing depending on what we're talking about. But yeah, I think a lot of successful people will tell you that there is a point at which you just need to start doing things even if it's not perfect.
Yeah. Perfection isn't real anyways, unless you're Menchie. Oh, you scared her.
I scared her.
You spook Magook.
Okay, Menchie. Tina, 33-year-old lady here. The kids at work, the quote-unquote kids at work, my coworkers, teach me new slang words once a week. It makes me feel ancient. In my 20s, I wish I knew that moisturizing and wearing sunblock every day would be beneficial to me now. My skin wishes it too. Crepe paper skin. I just thought that was a strange. My skin would have benefited from using sunscreen. Is the point.
Yeah.
Good, very good practical advice.
Yeah.
Especially if you live somewhere like Australia.
I got second-degree burns once from not wearing sunscreen.
That's pretty bad.
I know.
Like, actually?
Yeah, I had to go to the doctor.
Like a doctor told you that?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really
I didn't
bad.
know this.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. I was very stupid.
How sick did it make you? Because when people get really bad burns,
up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I went to Disneyland. The only time I went to Disneyland in Florida.
How young were you?
I think 13 or 14, maybe 12.
Damn. So it ruined the trip?
Yes.
Basically,
it was so bad that I couldn't even sit in a roller coaster, even a gentle roller coaster, because my entire back was just like burned and blistered. So I couldn't like have any pressure on it.
Well, you learned your lesson.
Yeah, like it was just one of those stupid things where you're just stubborn and you're like, "I don't need sunscreen." No, I needed sunscreen.
I did that. I went whitewater rafting one time, and I guess I was wearing a bathing suit. I think, yeah. So only like my knees down were exposed. Anything below, because I was wearing like a wetsuit jacket or something. Mm-hmm. And the guy's like, "You should probably wear sunscreen." And we're like, it was like me and some other boys,
Sunscreen's
like
for
12,
babies.
13. Exactly.
Like, it's so
all of us the
stupid.
next day just like beat red legs, just so painful.
But like, this is such a good example of for some reason when I was a teenager, I thought I was like too cool to like have to worry about, but like that makes no
Care
sense.
about my health?
Like, yeah,
Lame.
why lame. Like, I don't need that. Like, clearly I can just decide whether or not to get burned. Like, no, it's not how that works.
The kids at work making you feel old. Like, forget the slang stuff. We already talked about that. There was a moment for me. Like, I started at StatCan where, you know, we worked for many years, or I worked for many years. I started there when I was just in first year university. So I think I was 19 years old when I first started there. So I was like the young person at work for a long time. And I think I kind of embraced that and almost kind of use it as a crutch. Like, oh, I don't have to worry about, you know, I'm the young person who's like pulling above their weight. And that was sort of how I thought of myself at work.
But then you're not.
But there was a point at which they started hiring like younger students and stuff.
Who
and
are
like,
pulling more weight.
I just remember it really hit me like a ton of bricks one day that like I was not a young person at work anymore because there were people like years younger than me now. And they probably thought of me as just like, because I must have been like sort of talking to them as if like, hey, I was recently a student. I bet I was talking to them as if like we were peers. But I think there was a moment where like, am I just kind of the weird old guy, like talking to the new students? Probably.
You're like
they
me
probably
in
thought
the
that.
TikTok comment. Yeah. They probably thought of you like
I
that.
was like, hey, you just got new FSF student. You're so chuggy. Let's go to the cafeteria and get nachos.
But that's like not the correct use of it. So I can understand the cringe in that moment.
I don't know. I don't care.
on the point of feeling like an example of how to feel old or how I feel old is the same. I think I always pictured myself as someone who is like the younger one in the workforce, whether it was when I worked in cars, I was definitely the youngest there, or when I started working for the government. And then same thing, like slowly over time, all of a sudden there's like 2 people, 3 people younger than me. And I remember always being part of the joke, like where it was like, who's the youngest in the room? Who has to like, I don't know, worry about someone's birthdays or bring the food or something. And it was like always me for the longest time.
And then
it was like not me. And then it was like definitely not me. And then there was people who were getting married and they were like 24 years old and they were like my coworkers and they're like, yeah, I'm having a baby. And I'm like, what? Like,
no, we're the young people.
Like, I'm like, I thought I was the youngest person here. Yeah.
I think people would be, that really sneaks up on you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, from Andrew Half 32, and I definitely feel old talking about technology. Explaining to teens now about using a T9 or having a digital camera, phone, iPod all separately, or using MapQuest, and not really having social media in high school is wild because of how recent it all seems. As for what I would tell myself in my 20s, I'd say that things don't have to be settled in your 20s. Allow for things to be always changing. I was so fixated on my career and relationships, staying consistent, that I was allowing them to continue even when they were toxic.
Yeah. Being afraid of change, I think, is something that gets harder over time, but also is important to consider if that's a fear when you're younger, because it can help you down the road. For example, if you're 20 and you know and you feel that like you're not in the career or the degree or the schooling that's right for you or in a relationship, it will hurt you much harder later to have just remained in that path for longer than necessary than to just make that change when you knew and you felt that that change should have been made.
I think people put way too much pressure on themselves to feel like they have to have figured out what they want to do in their adulthood.
It's their parents' fault.
Very young. A lot of it is external. Going home for Thanksgiving dinner and like,
literally
so
my
what
trauma.
are you going to do? I know this was your experience.
My story.
For me, I think it was a lot of like self-inflicted. Like I put a lot of pressure. I'm sure it's how you're raised too, right? But like most people will not be doing in their 30s what they were doing in their 20s and what they were doing in their 30s and their 40s. A lot of people change career trajectories, go back to school. Like this is totally okay. I think we should like remind younger people
normalize change.
That's okay.
Yeah. Normalize change.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I want to say. Cool. From Erica Weiss, I've been watching you since I was 24 and I'm turning 31 this year. Does that make you feel old, Christine?
I love this comment because it reminds me of when we went to Starbucks on our trip to America the other week.
Yes.
The
What
the
happened?
girl
Tell us.
working at Starbucks, like of at least employment age, said she watched me in grade 9. Was it grade 9 or when she was 9? I think she said when she was 9, right?
Is that possible?
That's what I said. I was like, what?
Yeah, no, I remember
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
She looked like she was a young adult, but maybe
Yeah.
she was only 16, 17.
Right. But like employment age, obviously. So I
Yeah.
think that's 16 in the States at minimum.
Okay.
But
So it's possible she started watching you 6 years ago when she was
Right.
like 9, 10 years
but
old.
it's just
yeah.
like crazy to be like, you were not 9? Like, what? I don't understand it because you're working right now. Like,
It is
yeah.
pretty trippy. This is maybe a less relatable
Yeah.
one. But yeah, when people come up to you and say like, I loved you as a kid, and they look like an adult, it's like, what? How does that make
You're
sense?
like, I watched you in grade 7 every day after school. And I was like, what?
Anyway, back to the comment. Erica says, it makes me feel old thinking of what my parents were doing at my age. It's not so much that I feel old as much as younger people seem to think people my age are old. I feel so young still, but teens seem to think anyone in their 30s is a different species, which feels weird. Something I wish I knew when I was in my 20s was that I'm not doing it wrong. I didn't know exactly what I must have been doing wrong. All I knew is I had this terrible sense of anxiety and dread, insecurity, and inadequacy. I wish I had known there was no imaginary bar I needed to meet. I'm fine how I am, and I'm okay to live life in whatever way seems to fit me.
I like the sentiment, and it kind of goes along with, I think it was Andrew that had said before, is that I think everyone puts a lot of pressure on themselves regardless of their age. I think a lot of people do that to themselves. But I think with age or just over time, you kind of realize that relative to the previous 5 years or decade, depending on how old you are, you tell yourself, oh, I didn't need to be as hard as I was on myself last 5 years ago. And maybe you afford yourself a little bit of flexibility moving forward. So just like Erica is saying, like she's fine now with how she is to live life in whatever ways that seem fit to her. Which I think is like, it demonstrates a lot of personal growth to get to that point. So I really like shout out to Erica Weiss. Yeah. But like I think that's a great sentiment that we can all kind of aspire to just find a place in our lives and not expect it to come like the second we're an adult, technically at 18 or 21 or whatever. But just know that eventually after a life of lived experiences, you kind of learn where you're okay with just sitting where you fit and how serious to take the things around you, especially those that you cannot control.
I think you said the perfect word, though. It's about growth, and it takes those life experiences. I don't think there's any advice or anything someone else can tell you that skips that part. I think people have to kind of figure this out for themselves. Because like there's a lot of consistency in the comments we're seeing here from people being like, I wish I'd told myself 10 years ago not to be so hard on myself, or that it would be okay to not know what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, or that you're never going to really feel like an adult, that I don't think you ever really get there. So I just, as much as you could tell someone who is 18 or 19 that, I don't think I think you really have to feel that for yourself. Maybe it helps to hear some older people say that. Maybe there's just some reassurance in that. But I think it takes those life experiences in your 20s probably to sort of figure that out for yourself.
Yeah. It's like the longer you've driven in a car over several years, you get more comfortable and you just know how to do it. And then it feels kind of secondhand. But you couldn't just study up for how to drive in a car and drive once and feel totally comfortable with it. I think like there's just some things like life experience that you're just going to have to go through in order to reach that point. Exactly like you said.
Maybe. From Jess, people around me having kids makes me feel old. Seeing a human grow up around you really makes you see how fast time is going. Something I wish I knew in my 20s was that other people's opinions, generally speaking, mean nothing. You like an outfit, but you're afraid people will judge you for it? Who cares? Wear what you like. The people you want around you in the long run are the people who will support your weirdness.
Yo, that last statement is incredibly true. Yeah.
That was another theme we saw in a lot of these answers that I think is super helpful, or I think a lot of people come to learn, is this idea that the things you make a big deal about what other people think about you or caring about other people's opinions, you are probably projecting that onto other people, or thinking about that way more than other people care.
You're thinking about it more than they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I get it. Like I still think about things I did wrong or messed up, or one time I said the wrong thing or gave a bad presentation, and I have the kind like I will just think about these things randomly. But like I'm probably the only one who remembers that,
your
right?
presentation from 7 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, or the time I said something embarrassing in the 8th grade or whatever. It's just, yeah, I can relate to this for sure. And then the seeing the people around you grow up thing, that hits you hard for sure. Like I've family that I don't see often, and it's strange. Like you think of them as like a cousin I hadn't seen in years I saw recently, and like I thought of them as like a child. I remember them as a child, and then I see them and they're like a grown adult person.
No longer a 40-pound baby.
No longer a 40-pound baby. Now they're a 40-pound man.
Yeah, and I think on the last note, the people you want around you in the long run are the people who will support your weirdness. I think everyone kind of goes through this phase where whether it's high school or university, you're going to be friends or at least in circles with people who you're not going to last being friends with. That just happens to everyone. Like you're not always going to be best friends with everyone you're friends with. And I think it just takes time to kind of figure out with who you fit with and what kind of personalities you'll mesh with in the long run. And it's not a bad thing that some friendships will dissolve over time. That's like completely natural and normal. And I think it's just you'll find a different group of friends. You'll make friends at work one day. And if you currently think you hate everyone at work, people will change at that workplace. Or maybe you will change. You'll enter a different workplace.
I don't want to sugarcoat it though. I think it's hard to make
friends.
friends as an adult. I think
Yeah.
in school and things like that, you're really sort of forced to be in certain social settings that you can kind of just not do once you're working. I guess
Is that a good or a bad thing?
I think it's harder to make friends. I guess it depends how much having a friend group is important to you,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of people just end up being friends with like the people they work with, right? I think that is often what you see.
Like default friendships. But that's the same thing in high school. A lot of people just often end up being friends with whoever's lunch table they sat at and whatever made sense. But then there's so much drama that goes on. When you're young, people ostracize you because you don't have the latest Adidas track pants. Bad example. Old
Yeah,
example.
we don't have to worry about that
Okay, next
anymore.
one.
All right, from Ski, I'm 31 and my health makes me feel old. I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis earlier this year. I wish I'd learned sooner in my 20s that people rarely care or remember things. Not being bothered by outside opinion on insignificant things really makes life easier.
And it's a hard thing to train yourself to do that. It's a
I don't
really
think you can.
hard thing.
I think you just have to learn it for yourself, kind of like we were saying before.
Yeah, or you just have to take it, spend just as much time as it took the other person saying it on it, and then leave it.
Yeah.
So if it's a comment on the internet and it took someone 20 seconds to write it out, you think about it for 20 seconds and then you move on.
Yeah. And the health stuff sucks though, right? And I guess there's some things that can happen at any age. But yeah, I think a lot of people, like we joke around about you start to feel, oh, like my back hurts getting out of bed. But yeah, I think actual health stuff can sneak up on people in your 30s where it kind of feels like you think of that being something you only have to worry about when you're really old. You know what I mean?
And then I think people in our age range and just below also think they never would have to worry about health prevention measures because they're so far from being old, So this idea that I don't really need to go to the doctors beyond the very generic stuff. I don't need to worry about doing preventative care or vitamin supplements because whatever, I'm only 28 or whatever you think is not that old. But then things can sneak up on people, and some things just happen by chance to people. Some things are hereditary, whether you know about them or don't. And so it's always kind of important, no matter what your age, to get information about your own health if it's available and accessible. Yeah.
And there's people with obviously chronic health conditions who are dealing with this their whole life, whereas for them it's well, I had to deal with this even as a child. And but I think for people who didn't have that, who are just otherwise seem like healthy adults, I think it's as you get into your 30s and probably 40s, that's when some of these things can really sneak up on you if you haven't been sort of, proactive. Maggie J, I was buying alcohol the other day and the clerk just glanced at my ID without really looking. I joked she was letting me slide and she said, "Oh, I just saw the 19 in front of the year." Legal drinking age in the US is 21. Yeah. That's sort of 2000. The fact that there are adults today who were born after the year 2000.
Who can legally drink.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you remember when, okay, tangent but related, when checks, like hard checks that, people would write on,
Sure.
used to be printed, it said 19, and then there was an underscore
blank.
where you would write like 98. But all of our bank books, like checks, were printed with 19. So when the year changed to 2000, it's like no one ever thought that would happen. They just printed checks with 19 for like decades.
Yeah, they just never thought that we'd get out of that century. We'd all blow each other up.
Anyway, sorry.
Maybe.
Yes, I agree with this.
I think a lot of people experience this, like that point at which like people start, you obviously look like an adult. We're not going to card you anymore, right?
What if I go with cat ears?
If
Do you
went
think
right now,
they'll ID me?
do you care?
No, I don't
Would
care.
you feel bad if they didn't? Yeah. You know what? I feel this more with, I don't know if we included one or not, but athletes, for people who watch sports, I think there's a moment where you realize the athletes you are watching are way younger than you. Because a lot of sports fans will grow up, idolizing their sports heroes. So for me growing up, it was like Daniel Alfredson or things like that. And like for 12-year-old Ben, I was watching
someone older than you.
25, 30-year-old Daniel Alfredson, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, but if I watch sports now as a 33-year-old man,
Who's the star?
the stars are like 19, like they're 20-year-old.
So you're
sports
idolizing
stars.
20-year-olds.
Well, I'm not idolizing them. It's like you're
You're
sort
not
of
idolizing them?
well, I enjoy sports, but like your sports heroes growing up, you think of as like those. They are just older because I think you make those memories as young people. I think a lot of people just romanticize their earliest memories of falling in love with something, whereas now, like I'll watch sports and like these kids are like babies. Like it's like I'm watching like young people play. It's like a completely different sort of frame of mind. But there was definitely a moment where like I realized like, yeah, these young professional athletes now were born after the year 2000, and that's who is on the TV in front of me. I think it fucks with a lot of people too, because they also like, you compare yourself. You're like, I'm watching 20-year-old, or like you're seeing like a 25-year-old on the TV professional sports star. Like I'm 25 and I'm just eating Cheetos on my couch watching this guy. You know what I mean?
Or I'm 37 and eating Cheetos and watching
exactly.
this. Yeah.
There's a bit of that here too. From Kathy North. Hi, Cristine and Ben. I'm 52, and the only thing that makes me feel old is when younger coworkers ignore me. I guess they don't realize that no matter that is sad.
No. Do not ignore Kathy.
I guess they don't realize that no matter how old you are, you still feel the same inside. The only difference is that you have more life experience and may not stress out over the same things that you did when you were younger. It would be nice to be included, but at least when you are older, you don't care what people think. It's just too bad because some of that life experience could benefit some younger people if they took the time. Now I know I should have been more open to listening to older people when I was in my 20s. Just want to add that Holo Taco nail polish makes me feel young. Keep up the great work. That is nice.
Thank you, Kathy.
Does it make you feel young? Do you feel young in general?
I love
Bestie?
this comment. It makes me like sad, but in like a happy way, because I feel the same way. But based on the comment, I was just explaining about like my TikTok.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
that really
I
bothered
feel
you.
like Kathy, like I'm just trying to be like, hey guys, and it sounds like Kathy's coworkers are shutting her out just because of her age. I mean, obviously we have like no other context, but if that's the case, that's kind of sad, because maybe Kathy's a really cool person and she's interesting to talk to, and maybe she's just curious and wants to know what her young coworkers are up to. And it can kind of feel like if you're Kathy's age, you're almost back in high school. It feels like the younger people around you are just treating you like, you can't sit with us.
But she has the context and life experience to hopefully not let it
No, but
bother her,
exactly
right?
like
Yeah.
she said. She's like, it's okay because I'm not taking it like it's not personally offensive. I'll be okay. But it's still kind of sad to just think that Kathy's just going to go eat lunch by herself now because her young coworkers just give her a glare and then, go back to whatever.
I hope you don't only work with young people who are still in that mindset. Because I think it's like, I don't think you can tell young people like you better hang out with the older people
No,
at work too. That's just not
it's
going to
not a
happen,
demand,
right?
but
Yeah.
it's just something to consider that just because someone is older than you, it doesn't mean they're automatically not worth your time.
No, of course not. And it's like really their immaturity that is limiting that. Like
Yeah.
at work, like I remember it was always interesting talking to older people. And sometimes it's like there's such a generational divide that like maybe there isn't a lot of common ground there to have a
But that's
conversation.
still, I find that
But
still
actually, yeah, it
interesting.
can be
Yeah.
really fascinating
Yeah.
to listen to someone who has like a very different life experience than you. But if you just want to hang out with your friends and like just look at your phone and watch TikTok memes, maybe you don't want to hang out with Kathy at lunch.
Kathy, I will hang out with you.
Will you?
Kathy, come join me. I'm so sad. But thank you. And I'm glad that Holo Taco makes you feel young or cool or just anything. And I guess that's, nail polish has no age. Unless it's like getting really old and you need some nail thinner. But
It does technically expire
but the
eventually.
people who can wear nail polish, I think it doesn't matter if you're 16, 33, or 52. You can have sparkly cool nails.
Okay, write those numbers down.
Okay.
From Kimberly, my body doesn't move like it once did. Same. I know it's cliche, but it's true. We're more financially stable, but have more responsibilities to care for our family and extended family. I didn't feel prepared to help care for my not well, but still obstinate dad after losing my mom. This response makes me sound so much older than my 35 years. I can relate to this. Again, kind of like the health stuff. I think it's easy to think about. There's some like big moments in your life about like losing a parent, or maybe it's about health things or things like that, that I think you can sort of naively go through life thinking about like that could be a problem when I'm like in my 40s or 50s. And I think just a lot of people, when it hits you at a younger age in your 20s or 30s or whatnot, that can sneak up on you too. So it's another good reason not to sort of push life off, right?
Yeah, because you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Enjoy the people you love and care about.
Enjoy life
all the
while
time.
you're living it.
From server crash love, something that makes me feel old is knowing that athletes that are my same age are coming up on retirement, like the NHL. Okay. I wasn't sure if we include this or not. Totally true. To hear that like Sidney Crosby is retiring or might retire soon, Christine.
Okay.
They were like kids.
Ty Domi?
Okay, next.
Is he retired?
We're not talking hockey.
I don't know. I'm just naming
Hockey
names.
podcast here. And two more from Abby Meow Meow. I wish I knew how unimportant finding yourself actually is. I'm 35 now and spent so much of my early and mid 20s trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do and who I was supposed to be, only to reach my 30s and not have any of those answers, but more importantly, not caring about those answers. You're allowed to not know. You're allowed to grow and change your mind and give yourself the grace of not needing to have everything figured out by some arbitrary age deadline.
I love that last line. There is never a deadline. And I often see that reiterated in people who are deciding whether or not to go back to school or to change careers, is that it's never too late to change or go back if you want to do something different. So I highly respect anyone who's like, gone back to school as an older adult. We saw a ton of that when we were doing our master's degree. I swear half of our class was like over 40. Maybe not half, but like a huge significant number of people, to my surprise, when I was like 22, were very much older. And like one of them had been a cop for like a few decades. One of them had been a librarian for a few decades. Like I just remember thinking like, that's so interesting because they bring a whole shitload of life experience of like working related experience and just life to the thesis and master's degree that they were going to complete, which is so fucking fascinating. And you need more of that, I think, in higher education.
And I always had the perception that those mature students, as I think sometimes they're called, they always felt like they really knew what they were doing there.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of younger people are like, oh, I'm going to stay in school because I don't know what to do.
I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah.
I think, as you move along, it really seemed like those people are there with intention and purpose.
Yeah, and they always did really well.
Yeah.
Unlike some of the younger people who are like, I don't know, I
don't know
got
what I'm doing
shit-faced
here.
last night.
My parents expect me to go to school.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is a very eloquent comment. I think it speaks for itself. And last one from Anger Lizard. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I'm going to be 39 in 8 weeks, but I don't feel old because I'm not. I'm privileged enough to be healthy, active, and generally happy. I don't get frustrated about advancing technology. I'm a member of communities that have an average lower age of the members, and that's fine. Generally, I do not relate to people my age feeling old, being mad, bothered, concerned, or uninformed about younger generations. Maybe I'm lucky, maybe it's a mindset, maybe it's the therapy, I have no clue, but I don't relate to feeling old because I don't feel old because I'm not old. And again, I think just want to bookend it because you're not old in your 30s.
Yeah, it's a meme to say you're old when you're 30.
Yeah, it's just different being in your 30s.
Yeah, and it's valid and fair to acknowledge that you feel old relative to a decade ago, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like you're definitely old as you're ready to die, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, just definitely don't want to reinforce that sort of mindset or anything that is like, oh, you're past your peak or something stupid like that.
No, absolutely not. And I agree with Anger Lizard here. Like I don't get frustrated about advancing technology because I just want to learn it. I understand that it's challenging for anyone to learn a new app. You know, it's annoying that there's like 17 different apps, but I'm ready for it. Teach me. Someone show me. And I feel like I'm of the mindset where I want to advance with everyone else, even if it's a little bit harder for me to advance because I didn't grow up with the same tools. And that's the same thing with language. It's always going to be harder to learn a language when you're older and you already have an adult developed brain. But if you learn multiple languages when you're younger, it's so much easier. And it's the same thing with learning technology. So I learned Excel when I was super young, but I remember once training someone who was like in their 50s, and it was so fucking frustrating trying to teach them how to like carry a cell.
Yeah.
But as someone who is getting older than I was previously, I want to learn about advancements in technology. And I'm thinking mostly in like social media landscape and, you know, what people are using and doing and how they're doing it and how algorithms change and anything related to like online commerce or shopping or just anything that's technologically related. And obviously as our backgrounds are in like statistics, we kind of understand that these things are going to become more important for people to use, and you want better interfaces and better UI and all these things. So I can appreciate that. And I know that it's going to be harder for me sometimes to like learn a new app from scratch than it will be someone who just gets it intuitively when they're like 15 years younger than me. But like Anger Lizard, like I'm open to it. And I think it's kind of annoying sometimes when older people say like, I will never understand, because it's like the older person who once said to me, I will never understand Microsoft Excel. And I'm like, dude, how can you function without
Microsoft? You could
Microsoft?
like any curiosity.
You could if you had, exactly. So just having the curiosity is something that never has to die.
Yeah. I will say though, the distinction for me is like, does this technology actually make your life better or not? Because I don't care about being on the latest apps because that's where like the kids are now sharing the memes. You know what I mean? Like if there will be new technology that actually helps me and makes life better and things more convenient, I want to sort of stay in a mindset of being curious and willing to learn those things. So I'm not the old man now who like doesn't understand
How to use
like
an
what a
iPad.
cell phone is
Yeah.
or something, right? But at the same time, it's so liberating not caring about like, are you on the cool app now? Or are you using the right words that the cool kids use? Like it's been a long time since I cared about that, and it's great. It's great not caring about that.
Ben has liberated himself from using the word bestie.
Well, just like when it comes to fashion and clothes and what
Yeah.
music you listen to, like who cares what other people think about
Well, yeah,
that?
you don't have to. And for me, it's not really like caring about what people think insofar as it's just, I want to be able to keep up because it's the language of communication. That if I'm going to keep talking to people on the internet, like part of the internet is just being up to date.
But
on
yeah, if
which
you
apps.
enjoy it, then
And I do
you should
enjoy
learn it. Yeah.
Yeah. But like you said, like for the average person who isn't a social media influencer, obviously I think this conversation is a little bit different coming from me than the average person who doesn't participate in that. Then yeah, you have the choice of being like, I don't need to learn TikTok if I don't want to. It's fine.
I will say, like, when we'll have meetings on like marketing strategy and stuff for Holo Taco, and I'm usually mostly a fly on the wall, but like I understand what we're talking about when it comes to like email marketing or what's being posted on Instagram.
You understand email and
Yeah.
Instagram.
But when I'm hearing people talk about like what is to be posted on the Holo Taco
Or
TikTok,
the trending audios.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
like,
But
at all.
that's okay. Like you don't have to.
It's okay, but it's a little strange to me that like I don't understand like why it's cool or funny at all.
But you don't have to.
I know.
And also the people who like it don't care that you don't understand it. You know what I
that's
mean?
fair.
They're like, okay,
But
whatever.
like we'll share like, oh, here's a sound that's trending, and I'm like, I don't find this interesting or entertaining or humorous at all.
I think it's one of those things where you need to actually participate on a daily basis in scrolling through TikToks to understand the comedy. Because if you come out of it, if you look at one TikTok in isolation and you've never watched TikTok and it's a trending audio and you have no background, you're like, what the fuck? This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. I'm not laughing.
Is it possible that maybe it just is dumb and not funny, and the
And maybe
kids are
when you just
wrong?
watch so much dumb shit, it becomes funny. I mean, like maybe, but so has our television when we
Yeah,
were growing
sure.
up. We watched a lot of dumb shit when we were
Yeah.
growing up and found it funny.
Okay. It's the kids that are wrong.
It is what it is, then. Just let me play on TikTok.
Okay, bestie.
Shut up.
All right, that was fun. I'm gonna go take a nap now.
Are you going to be able to read the comments under this video? Is
No,
that too
I'm
complicated?
gonna have to. My glasses aren't good. I'll get my reading glasses.
You got to get your prescription renewed.
But I want to have my early bird special dinner first
At 5 p.m.?
5 p.m. dinner. Yeah, I get the discount at Red Lobster.
Make sure you take your glucosamine supplements before you go to bed
Yeah, for sure.
and your ZMAs.
Yeah, sleep apnea machine and. All right. See y'all later. Bye.
Happy Taco Tuesday.
Happy Taco Tuesday.
See you later. Bye.
Good ending.